And what a great reminder that no matter what's going on in the human world, the world as a whole still contains peace, still contains snow falling on a lake and other images like that. The animals do not care who won what election or whether or not your order came in on time for dinner. It just doesn't matter to them. There is a bigger truth. And so we return in January to the bigger truth, letting go of all of the details, letting go of all of the ways we humans can make things so complicated. And so I'll remind you that this month in January, while we're talking about the conscious evolution and timeless wisdom, we're talking specifically about, well, today we're talking about that thing we talked about as spirit last week. We're talking about the way it works. And the easiest and fastest little line that I have learned about the way it works is it works according to our beliefs. It is done unto us according to our beliefs. Now, those are all of our beliefs, the conscious and subconscious ones, which can be a little frustrating sometimes because I didn't realize I was holding X, Y, or Z as truth in my subconscious. I don't know where it came from. I want it to go away. So this is my my way of thinking about this. Imagine you've gone into a restaurant and you're looking at the menu, whatever parts you can see, and you're looking at the menu and thinking, what do I want? Now, some of us are going to order whatever's just happens to be our favorite. It's what we know. Some people are going to kind of dial it back and think that they can't order anything unless it's the least expensive thing on the menu. And then some people are going to say, you know what, I'm living it up this time. And they will order the surf and turf or, appetizer, everything from soup to nuts, the whole shebang, plus a bottle of really expensive wine. Now, the waiter is not going to argue with your order. The waiter might ask how you want something cooked, if you're okay with some, certain add-ons, but the waiter is not going to say, no, you can't have that. And then the waiter or the server goes into the kitchen, and in this metaphor, spirit's in the kitchen, and begins putting together your order the way you asked for it. Now, it is entirely possible that when you ordered the meatloaf, you meant the vegan meatloaf. Or you meant meatloaf such as your mother used to make or your father used to make, because that person in your life knew you don't like onions. Or that you expect it to look a certain way. I know when I say I want shepherd's pie or cottage pie, I want it the way my sister makes it. I know that shepherd's pie has lamb and cottage pie has beef, and so I will specify one or the other. When it goes back into the kitchen, it is not just all of my belief system that is working. It is the belief system that we call the race consciousness, that which lies in your subconscious and connects us to every other person across time and space. And so while it gets through all of those filters, by the time it gets back to the kitchen, it might be that while my assumption was I would be having meatloaf made out of X, Y, and Z, the rest of the world thinks of meatloaf as something entirely different. And so because I did not say, the way my parents made it or the way my sister makes my shepherd's pie, what comes out is not exactly what I was expecting. This is something that people come to me with all the time. I was praying for this and I've been praying and praying and praying, and it's just not working, or I got it, but it wasn't what I expected. When we go into the world and put forth our choice of how the world should work, we sometimes don't realize we're being influenced by our subconscious belief. So I might say, I think I'm ordering the best thing I can have. But in the best tradition of all little kids everywhere, I end up ordering a hot dog because I think that's the best I can have. How many of us would I don't know if anyone else did this, but in my early days when I was still learning about prosperity and that I was worthy of good, if I went to the restaurant and I knew somebody else would be paying, I would do what I called ordering from the right-hand column, meaning I'd order the least expensive thing. I would not order what I really wanted. I would order what I thought I could get and not upset other people. Have you ever done that? Maybe not in a restaurant, but maybe in life. You end up dating the person you think you're worthy of. And until you realize what it is you want in a relationship or what it is you need, what are your bottom lines? What are your this far and no farther lines? Until you figure out both what you actually deserve as a child of God and heir to the kingdom of heaven, you might order what you think you can get. There's an old story about, and I've used it several times, so if you've heard this joke, just ignore me for a second. And don't give it away. Don't be telling the people you're with that what the answer is. There was a gentleman who was a tinker, meaning a traveling salesman. And he had his little cart, and he would go around, and he and his little donkey would make the rounds, bringing people what they needed. Well, as time went on, the donkey aged, and it was no longer able to pull the cart. Luckily, the tinker was in kind of a settled area when the donkey had just had enough and couldn't go any further. Now, this tinker, this salesman, happened to be a very religious person, and so he prayed. Divine Spirit, I know that I have every right to earn a living. I know I'm a good salesperson. I know I can do this. If you would just send me another donkey, then I would be able to move forward and spread your word while I do your good work. I happen to see kind of a middle-aged donkey about 3 farms back. So if I could have that one and have it cost me no more than what I can afford, then I would be very, very happy. Well, it didn't happen. And so the man kept praying, kept absolutely in faith believing that he could have that donkey. And finally, because I'm Catholic, the story has to have St. Peter's at the gate. St. Peter goes to God and said, this guy will not give up. He really, really wants that donkey. And God said, well, I guess we give it to him. I mean, I had just invented cars so that he could travel around more easily, but I guess we'll give him the donkey. See, this is what we think we can have will never be as creative or as fantastic as what the divine says we can have. We will find our hidden beliefs about what we think we can have, what God will always say yes to, because that's the way it works. We will find our hidden beliefs when we look at what upsets us or brings us into a lot of emotion. That's where our hot buttons are. That's where we would say, a lot of energy around something. Now, the way it works is what we call the law of cause and effect. Cause is our thinking, a combination of what we know we think and believe, what we think and believe, and what we think we should think and believe. All of that is wrapped up in the cause that through this law, which has to say yes, the Spirit of God powers that through us and brings it into our world. So if you want to know what you really believe, look at your world. And if you want to know where you want to start cleaning things up, look at your world and decide what upsets you or what makes you super happy, because you have a lot of energy in those beliefs. Now, I'll remind you that it is done unto us. according to our beliefs. We can choose the cause. We can choose the thinking and consciously keep remembering the thing we truly, truly want until it kind of silences all of those old beliefs. It pushes them out. It shines the light so that those old shadow beliefs have no place to be. And then spirit brings us to it. See that salesman? What he really wanted was a way to make a living. What he really wanted was the ability to move his wares. How spirit created that, I tend to try and stay out of that kind of stuff because I'm going to keep asking for a middle-aged donkey that I can afford with what's in my pocket when God is creating a world that could actually work for everyone. That is why we have what we call the global vision, which is the short version is a world that works for everyone. It works for me. It works for you. It works for everyone out there according to what they need. It's not the golden rule. It's what we call the platinum rule. It's not do unto others as you would have them do unto you. It's do unto others as they would have it done. Oh, excuse me. I'm really resisting speaking my truth for some reason at this moment, so we're going to let that go. In this moment, what I ask you to remember is if there is something upsetting you, there is an old, probably false belief at work. So I will speak for myself in saying in this week where there was so much on the news, where the pandemic numbers are rising and there's a new strain, and we had a lot of upset in DC this month or this week, when there's a lot of strong emotions flying high, I paid attention to what I felt. And I will admit, there were times I felt anger. There were times I felt frustration. There were times I felt rebellious. No little invisible germ is going to tell me I can't go shopping and do what I want to do and see my friends. I felt all of those human things, and it's wonderful because it tells me where I am in judgment of what is. If I am in judgment of our government, and hello, we're Americans, we're always in judgment of our government. We have been for 200 years plus. We always know what the other side should be doing, right? I mean, we all have those opinions that come up. If we can trace back our judgment, or as my coach would say, go have a temper tantrum in your prayer chair. But pay attention to what you're complaining about. Pay attention to what you think is wrong. And then take that into prayer with you and see where you are doing it to yourself. See, in religious science, it's not what's going on out there that we need to rearrange. We don't rearrange deck chairs on the Titanic. We go within and find out what God has to say to us personally about what we're thinking and believing. And when we can get to a more loving truth, when we can get to a non-judgmental but still discerning stance, and by judgmental, I mean you have to be different for me to be okay. By discerning, I mean this is what I need in my life. These are my bottom line. I will not go past this truth. We go out having discerned spirit within us and in a loving way live from that. And so we run the experiment. Does this work for us? Does this not work for us? If everything in your life is working perfectly and you're very, very comfortable, you're not pushing the edge hard enough. It could be better. And if you are willing to look at what lies outside of your common experience, what else, how much deeper could we go into an experience of the divine? Because while that song that was just played was incredibly peaceful and loving and wonderful, that explanation of Satori was a sense of peace. Sometimes spiritual awakening is going to have you wanting to smash the snooze button. It's going to have you wanting to go back to sleep. My friends, do not go back to sleep. Stay in the discomfort for a moment. Stay with it until you can become very clear about what Spirit is saying within you. Doesn't matter what somebody else is doing with it. Stay with your first step, which is what is Spirit within me saying. Now, right now, there's a lot of people who have a lot of stuff and energy up with what's going on in our country. And I have compassion and empathy for that, because it feels like things are going horribly wrong for some people. What I would remind you is that if we will go within, we will find that there are principles that we can lean into, and that we can continue this wonderful conscious evolution that we have been on for so long. And I can prove that. I'm going to begin my prayer today with the prayer that Ernest Holmes wrote in a time when this country was in an uproar. So just go within and see if these words speak to you at all. Ernest Holmes' prayer for our country says, believing in the divine destiny of the United States of America, preservation of liberty, security, and self-expression for all, I offer this, my prayer for my country. I know that divine intelligence governs the destiny of the United States of America, directing the thought and activity of all who guide its affairs. I know that success, prosperity, and happiness are the gifts of freedom and are in the divine heritage of everyone in this country. I know that success, prosperity, and happiness are now operating in the affairs of every individual in this country. I know that the divine guidance enlightens the collective mind of the people of this country, causing it to know that economic security may come to all without the loss of personal freedom or individual self-expression. I know that no one can believe or be led to believe that freedom must be surrendered in order to ensure economic security for all. The all-knowing mind contains the answer to every problem which confronts this country. I know that every leader in this country is now directed by this all-knowing mind and has the knowledge of a complete solution for every problem. Each is compelled to act upon this knowledge to the end that abundance, security, and peace shall come to all. And I know that this spiritual democracy shall endure, guaranteeing to everyone in this country personal liberty, happiness, and self-expression. And in order to take that into my own heart and mind, I now use my own words. And I ask you to hold within you a greater vision. And if my words echo within you as true, then add that to your vision. And so I close my eyes and invite you to do the same. Remembering that this all-knowing mind surrounds and indwells all of us. I now know and remember that each and every one of us is an individualized expression of that divine mind. I know that it is at work through each and every one of us, that it is done unto us according to our beliefs, that there is nowhere else to go and nothing else to be but a heart full of peace and love, with the power to create within each and every one of us. I know this happens on the global level and it happens on the personal level equally. I bless and celebrate the truth of the spirit within me and everyone else. And because that magnificent spirit exists within and through me, I now speak my word for all of us. And what I know is that old ideas are falling away. Old lies and misunderstandings are falling away, and we are birthing a whole new way of being in the world. I know that the Spirit of God itself, the Spirit of the Christ mind, is now rising up within all of us and making itself felt and known. And because of this, it is rising up in all of our leadership. It is rising up in our neighbors. It is rising up powerfully and loudly within each and every one of our hearts. And we know exactly what is ours to do. We can lovingly and do lovingly accept and move into the world that works for everyone, the world that is equal to what we all deserve as heirs to the kingdom of God itself, as avatars of the Christ consciousness. I know that this world in which we now live is being transformed into a place where we all are created equally, male, female, non-binary, black, white, purple, gray, and orange. All of us are now seen as the magnificent souls that we are, and there is our abundance. There is our truth. There is the absolute pure and perfect light that reaches into each and every mind and heart and chases away any misapprehension, any misunderstanding about the nature of the divine and the nature of who we are. I celebrate and give great thanks that this is simply the truth whose time has come now. We no longer accept second best. Middle-aged donkeys and hot dogs are a thing of the past, and we accept the whole top-of-the-line, 5-course, Maserati-level life in a world that does work for everyone. I know that the law of cause and effect is already going to work on these words and this claiming. This is the truth of what is and what must now be. It has to happen now. The law has already said yes and taken our order into that divine kitchen so that the great chef can make it so. Resting in this, trusting this with a grateful heart, I ask you to affirm with me, and so it is.